careful, you idiot. I said across her nose, not up it.
Sorry, sir. Doing my best.
Hey guys, my name's DocJade. Have you ever dreamt of living off-grid? Well, this might be close enough. Today we'll be playing with the Placeable Off-Grid mod, which, as the name suggests, disables the underlying grid that all buildings usually snap to. Without further ado, let's get started. A pretty decent seed, rocket debris, fishies, trees, and rock. Ease. As usual, time to grab some iron. Being able to place the drills wherever can lead to some pretty strange gaps, but it works just fine. Coal is a similar story, but I was already pretty curious to see how far I could stretch the limits of moving items between buildings. But instead of moving the coal backwards into the drill beside it, this burner miner somehow ended up mining into itself. Magic drills in play, time for a bigger furnace array. I was hoping that I might be able to output into multiple buildings at the same time, but much to my dismay, that seems to be foul play. 1-to-1 it is then, and we unlock steam power. Sometimes the drills refuse to output into anything besides themselves, so I occasionally have to snap them to the nearest valid position just to make them actually work. Which is unfortunate, but interestingly, I discovered that every different building seems to have its own secret grid that you can force snap it to, which we can abuse just a bit to force furnaces to go inside of mining drills. Is this against the spirit of the challenge? Maybe a teensy tiny bit, but more importantly, it lets us do some really stupid stuff, like this hilariously dense smelting array. Well, time for steam power, and let me tell you, lining up pipes is a nightmare, since you have to look really closely to see if they're actually connected or not. But eventually, in goes the boiler and 2 steam engines. One weirdly smooth power line later, I made a lab, chucked some science in, and started working on automation. Then we'll do logistics right after. Using assemblers off the grid feels absolutely abhorrent, but inserters actually get quite a big buff, since you can squeeze them practically anywhere you want because of their tiny hitbox. Being able to move items out of chests quickly this early into the game is so nice. Using the conjoined furnaces we discovered earlier, and the flexibility of inserters, you can cram smelters pretty darn tight. And with some careful alignment, you can even use an inserter to reach completely over a belt. Who needs long inserters? But for every upside comes a downside. Belts. I mean, belts don't sound that bad at first, right? Lining them up shouldn't be too bad, right? Wrong! Just like pipes, they behave and connect very strangely off-grid, and the worst part of all, you can't click and drag them. So you have to place them one at a time and pay very close attention, otherwise they'll get misaligned and won't work properly. Well, I'll hook up some drills for coal. With a steady hand, you can even place the drills on top of the belts, and then cram in the power poles as well. Time to bring the coal over to the steam boilers. This might take a while. Whenever the belts get misaligned, it's usually easier to just tear them all down and start over, which is pretty time consuming. Eventually though, the Kohler Express is chugging away. Some fiddling, iron metaling, and thumb twiddling later, the furnace stack slowly takes shape. Underground belts are extra fun, too. And that's iron working. Kinda. Now for copper, built the same way, but with 40% more bends. Onto the bus, if you can even call it that. With how wacky inserters act, I wanted to see how small of a steel smelting array I could build. The answer is quite small, and I also confirmed that the underground belts can in fact move items diagonally. Some quick and dirty green circuits for crafting, steel goes on the bus, then ammo production, just in case any biters get too close to the pollution cloud. In goes red science, a couple labs, then green circuits again, for real this time. Balancing these belts is really confusing sometimes. Up comes the bus, down goes more power production, then we can start working on green science. Being able to put a ton of inserters between buildings is so useful. After finding where the science was hiding and sneaking it into the labs, we'll grab engines, logistics 2, and cars so we can prune biters and hopefully track down some oil. Engines stockpiled and labs in a pile, cars that go vroom, and my arrival spells doom. Meandering a bit, there's an oil patch down on our soggy waffles, but I am definitely not placing a pipe that long, so trains it is. Steel furnaces while we wait, then I'll make some rails for the trip. But the trip quickly turned into a fall, since the rails won't turn. I did manage to get this one to bend, but it would only build S-bends over and over, still no full turns. I tried manually aligning them to see if I could get it to work, but no dice. How about blueprints? No luck there either. It looks like every different rail tile has its own grid. Then I saved the game and hopped into the editor to see if it was even possible, but even with legacy rails, no dice. Guess I'll have to figure something else out. I went to load my save, but then... Uh-oh. Okay, well, maybe does one of the older saves load? I even tried playing back the replay to see if I could create another save, but nope, it desyncs. I looked around in the secret settings menu to find anything that could help me, and no luck. The only way to recover the save was to disable the mod, reload the save the modless save, then load the save with the mod enabled again. This worked, but it had one major side effect. All of the belts are gone. So begrudgingly, one by one, I rebuilt all the belts, and then I vowed to never load a save or close the game just in case it broke again. Exhilarating gameplay. Eventually, though, everything was rebuilt, so back to the train. For those of you who don't know, you cannot unload a fluid wagon on a curved rail. The pumps won't connect to it. So we'll have to use a cargo wagon full of barrels instead. But then we hit yet another snag in our plan. The train stations won't attach to the rail, so we can't automate moving the train around. Whatever, I'll just have to move it manually. With the barrel unloading amalgamation ready, down we go to the oil patch, one wiggle at a time. At the other end of the snake, a silly loader, jacks of one trade, and a pipe routing nightmare. This is like tolerance stacking. I don't like this game. What felt like an eternity later, all the pump jacks are finally hooked up. Except for that one, but don't tell anyone. A line for power, and we're pumping. And that last pump really didn't want to cooperate. How did that not work? Oil in hand and plastic in mind, I realized I can add a bunch of temporary stops at the ends of the railway to automate delivery just a little bit, but I will have to keep continually adding new stops to the schedule. Red circuits and sulfur in the queue for blue science, and time for refineries. Unlike belts, pipes will let you drag them in a straight line, which definitely helps. To avoid needing a bunch of fancy underground pipes for advanced oil, we'll just stuff it all into one pipe and filter them back out with pumps later. Thankfully, there's already a coal belt over here that we can steal from to make plastic, but connecting the petroleum made me want to eat my chair. Plastic slowly makes its way back up to the bus, and in goes red circuits using the same compaction trick as the furnaces. Now for blue science and productivity modules to put in the labs. Sulfur for blue science and the science itself. Yes, I'm moving pretty fast, but there really isn't anything special about these setups, they just take longer to build. Science back to the labs. Now we can start working towards personal robots to help me build. So I'll cue the prerequisites for that, expand the mine a bit, and set up concrete production just a tad early to stockpile enough for the rocket silo and landing pad. More power, advanced oil processing, and mining productivity, since I really don't want to have to move the drills around. After taking acid and committing battery, the base is getting pretty lit. Modular armor equipped, but we still need to unlock the robots for it. So lube, electric engines, and robotics. A little crack never hurt nobody, so in goes advanced oil. After I finished lubing up my crack, ink setup, robotics. Now for personal roboport, worker robot speed, flammables, and rocket fuel. Solid fuel from petroleum, lube on the bus, electric engines, and rocket fuel. We'll need stone for purple science in a bit, so in that goes, and I finally unlock robots. Using them to build belts wasn't very useful, since they tended to get misaligned pretty easily, but they still worked pretty great for most builds, albeit with some minor touch-ups. Since I can never seem to focus on one thing at a time, I forgot I was working on purple science, then started setting up yellow science instead. Robot frames, low-density structure, and blue circuits. More researches towards the rocket, more copper, which was a huge pain for some reason, it took nearly an hour somehow. More train scheduling, and purple science. Why a single machine? Well, it was 3 a.m. and I was too tired to build more. Slowly navigating the research menu, I queued productivity 3 and then went to bed. I finished putting together yellow science, then started hand-fitting purple science just to avoid building one belt. More labs, more iron, more power, and more productivity. Now all we need for the rocket is speed module 3s and the silo. In goes the belt I was avoiding, and an insane, albeit slightly faster, purple science setup. But there's another road block. Well, actually my block has 4 roads on it, but besides that, we're running low on iron. We've only got about an hour of it left. Not good. There's an iron patch over here by the rail, but I don't want to build more track or run a belt that far.
I just cooked a really bad idea. Hold on.
Okay, then pass, Jade. Let's see what you got. A row of drills, 2 cars. What on earth is he doing? That's so stupid! Why does that work? With that extra iron, the rocket finishes researching, and we'll make the silo, then the satellite. One landing pad, and a lot of waiting later.
You're kidding me.
We're exactly 10 rocket fuel short. Up comes the rocket. Then off it goes into the Great Bed Bath and beyond. 11.5 hours. That's fast enough for an achievement. I'd like to take a moment to thank my supporters on Ko-fi. As far as challenge runs go, this one was pretty easy and not really worth playing yourself. That's pretty much all I have to say about it. You could try beating Space Age with this mod, which would actually be pretty difficult since you wouldn't be able to build rails on Fulgora. The mod also did get an update to put belts back onto the grid, which fixes the transport belt inconsistencies when you load the save, so your saves won't get bricked anymore. So you won't have to worry about that if you decide to try it for yourself. Overall, as far as challenges go, 2 out of 10. But that's all for today. My name's DocJade. Bye-bye.